Alright, today we're in section 6.1, ratios, proportions, and probability. We'll just cover the first two examples today, and then in our next class we'll cover the rest of the lesson. Alright, so in the first example, we're dealing with ratios, basically how to write ratios. And it gives us this example. It says an archer shoots 60 arrows at a target, 44 of them hit the scoring area, and 16 of them missed. How can you evaluate their performance? Well, you can evaluate it by using a ratio. I am on page 269, just in case you want to look along with me at that example. Now, you can write a ratio in three different ways. And you don't necessarily have to write all of this down, but you do need to see, okay, one way is to use the word to, another way is to use a colon, and a third way is to write it as a fraction, okay? So you're going to see on your homework tonight that it asks you to write the ratio in three different ways. That's what it's asking you to do. All right, so let's go back to our archery example. We're going to use that information to write a ratio in three ways. It says, write the number of hits to the number of misses. Well, here, order is important. Hits needs to come first, and misses needs to come second. So the archer had 44 hits, and he had 16 misses. 44 hits and 16 misses. You always want to write it as a fraction first, because can it be reduced? Can I reduce it? Yes. I can reduce it. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce it to 11 over 4, and now I'm going to use that ratio to write it in two other ways. 11 to 4 and 11 with a colon between the 4. And there's my three ways that I could write the ratio. All right, now it asked me to write the number of hits to the number of shots that he took. Well, again, 44 hits and 60 shots. Was this in simplest form? No. So I want you to go ahead and write it in simplest form and then in the two other ways. All right, so 44 over 60 reduces to what?
11 over 15.
11 over 15, and then I can write it in my other two ways. 11 to 15 and 11 with a colon between the 15. Okay, and now I've written it in three ways. All right, now I want you to do these two. Okay, assume the archer shot 40 arrows. The archer missed the target 12 times and scored 28 times. Write the ratio in three ways. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and write hits to misses and then hits to the total number of shots using the new numbers in three ways. So you start with a fraction in case you need to reduce, and then write it in the two other ways. All right, so first one, hits to misses was
28 over 12.
28 over 12, which reduces to 7 over 3, which is 7 to 3, and 7 colon 3. Okay, and if you wrote the one with the colon first, that's fine. All right, what about hits to shots?
28 over 40.
28 over 40, which reduces to
7 over 10.
7 over 10, so 7 to 10, and 7 colon 10. All right, and there's my three ways. Now, on your homework, it asks you in a little bit of a different format. It says, is this ratio in simplest form? So then you have to answer yes or no, and then you write it in the two other ways. So I want to do a couple that are going to look like your homework. What if I had 50 to 6? And what if I had, let's say 28 to 10? So the first thing you need to do is write it as a fraction and then figure out yes or no. Is it in simplest form? If not, write it in simplest form and then in the two other ways. So go ahead and do that. All right, so is 50 to 6 in simplest form?
No.
I'd say no. And then 50 over 6 in simplest form should have been 25 over 3, 25 to 3, and 25 with a colon between the 3.
I just forgot to say no.
Okay, so just on your homework, don't forget to say no, which is pretty obvious, but they just want a yes or no answer. What about 28 to 10?
No.
Nope. And then what is it in simplest form?
14 over 5.
14 over 5. 14 to 5. 14 colon 5. Y'all think you have ratios
Yes.
kind of down the 3 ways? All right. Example 2. Example 2. In example 2, we're going to go ahead and start comparing ratios, okay? Well, there's 2 ways that I can compare a ratio. The first way is to change the ratio to a fraction, or to a fraction with a common denominator. The second way is to change it to a decimal. So let's look at this example, and then we'll see how we can write these ratios. It says the ratio comparing the length of a bird's wings, which is this column, to the width of the bird's wings, this column, is called the aspect ratio. So order them from the greatest to the least. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and order from least to greatest because, for one, that's what your homework is going to ask. 2, that's what I'm going to ask on a quiz or a test. So we're going to do it in the reverse. We're going to order from least to greatest. Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to write each ratio. Okay, so it's length to width. So what we're going to do is we're just going to write each one of these as fractions. So 209 over 30 would be the white-tailed eagle. 47 over 12 would be the European. And 83 over 8 would be the black-headed gull. All right, but you got those? So these are our ratios. But what I can't do is I can't say, oh, well, 209 is bigger, so that's the biggest one. I need a common denominator, or I can change these to decimals. It's much easier to just change the fraction to a decimal. We can do that using our calculators. So go ahead and use your calculator to change all 3 of these ratios to decimals. Then we'll be able to clearly see which animal has, or which bird has the smallest aspect ratio and which one has the greatest. All right, so 209 over 30 becomes... Okay, very good. And I want you to go ahead and round these to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to say 6 and 97 hundredths. And the reason I do the squigglies right here, this is what I call an approximation sign. And that just means that 6 and 97 hundredths is not the exact answer. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the approximation sign. So 47 over 12 would round to what? 3 and 92 hundredths. Okay, 92 hundredths. 83 over 8 would round to 10 and 38 hundredths. So based on these decimal values, which animal or which bird has the smallest aspect ratio?
47.
And which animal is that?
The European.
It's the European, J. Followed by, what's the next one? The white-tailed eagle. Okay, and then the largest one is the black-headed gull. Okay, so the J, the eagle, and then the gull. All right, now, it's going to look a little different on your homework, so I just want to go over a problem that would look like your homework. Let's look at these ratios. We have 15 to 4. We have 19 to 5, and go ahead and write these in your notes. 53 over 15. 4 to 1. And 18 to 6. Well, yeah. So these are all written in different formats, but they're all ratios. So I can change them to decimals by converting each one of them by dividing the first number by the second number. So go ahead and divide the first number by the second number, change each of these to decimals, and write it directly underneath. So let's do the first one together. 15 divided by 4 gives me what? It's 3.75, okay? So 3.75 Okay, round it to the 100th. All right, and again, write them directly underneath the originals because we have to write it back in the original format in our answer. All right, go ahead and convert the rest of them. Okay, 19 to 5 is 3 8/10. What about 53 over 15?
3.53.
Very good. 3 and 53 hundredths, the 3 is repeating. 4 to 1 is just 4. And 18 to 6 is just 3. Okay, so now based on my decimal values, which one is the smallest? Okay, that would be 18 to 6. 18 to 6. But remember, you have to write it, 3 is the smallest, but you have to write it in the original format. So it would be 18 to 6. 3 is the smallest because that's 3.00. The other ones have values in their decimal places. All right, what's the next smallest? 53 over 15. Make sure you write it in the original form. What's the next smallest?
15 over 4.
That would be, yes, 15 to 4. It's close. Then it would be 19 to 5. And then last but not least, 4 to 1. All right, and this is what, you have 2 homework problems like this, and this is what it would look on a quiz or a test as well. Okay, all right, and if you understand that, that's all you need to know for the first part of 6.1.